I want to give a little bit of background because I've been doing physical product for the last 10 or 12 years. But before that, I ran one of the first interactive design studios. Started doing interactive design and web design in '95, like way before the dot-com bubble rose and fell. And I started getting obsessed with not just design process, but the actual visual linguistics of design. And that process that I went on, it took me away from obsessing on the aesthetics of design and more on process and the actual visual language. And the more I delve into that, it's very easy for people who do graphic design and branding to know about core values of a company or a brand or a product and be able to express that with color or with the nomenclature or the imagery. But it gets increasingly harder when you're working with physical product, and I feel that that's the next big thing. You know, when you have all the major technology breakthroughs released by large companies like Apple, people tend to stop to innovate. They're copying. And the innovation, I think, is not so much in the technology, because there's a trend to go more towards featureritis when people are trying to cram features in, than if people obsess over the actual linguistics. And I feel that we're only going to have real innovation if we start going back to the linguistics of design. And my presentation is, I hope, illustrates that quite well. So, you know, everyone knows about words and definitions. And also everyone here knows about process. So what I'm presenting and what I present to people that work with me is that design process is actually the grammar for your design when you're doing physical products. And that communication and language is just a tool. And I actually feel that my own personal obsession is, you know, we live on one planet, and I think standardization and global language is what's really going to move us forward as a planetary culture. And there's a lot of people talking again with the singularity and all these types of sci-fi type concepts that are happening now and being realized now. It's all about the technology and not about the language. And the language is so important to streamline communication and make things more efficient. But whenever you try to have a conversation about global language or universal language, people either get very emotional, they don't really discuss it in an intellectual way. It's all a very emotional and culturally based way. And I found that I'm able to have that discussion with design. So people say, okay, yeah, with graphics and photographs, it's easy to talk about complex concepts, but how do you do that with form? So everyone knows this is a complex concept. This guy is happy, right? He's smiling. And you can distill that into this now. I mean, now it's the visual linguistics of texting and technology has advanced to the point that you can represent the complex emotional states with emoticons. This is very powerful. I don't know how deeply people think about it, but it's very, very powerful. So then if you're talking about a form factor, and especially with my brand, where I'm trying to express optimism for the future and technoprogressivism, which is a big word, like how do you express technoprogressivism in a fragrance? You know, how do you do that in a wristwatch? How do you do that in an experience online? So I'm always trying to explore, like, what are the forms that you can then use as 3D, bring this into 3D, and are you going to present a sense of optimism? Are you going to make people happy? And of course, the opposite, everyone knows that this person is not happy. This person's sad. But what about more conceptual things? Like, people always challenge me on this. Like, is it a story that you put onto a design after? And what I'm proposing that it's not. So you can get to something more about, like, the function of a device also from the form. You know, it's very obvious, so it's probably not the best example. But if you go into more complex things, for example, this image, how does this make you feel when you see this image? Anyone have feelings? And if you distill it into something 3D, is it not what the ancient Egyptians, is this not what they were aspiring to? You can see how the concept of the heavens, of aspiration, of looking to the future, it can be expressed with a form and with lines in 3D and in 2D. Again, you see these forms repeating, and they are communicating a very human set of of emotional responses. It's fair. You can test these forms with focus groups, and they work. So like, how do you do things more complex? Like, how can you, the form of what is fashion, what is fashionable, what is future fashion? The galaxy pattern has been popular with hipsters for the last 5 years, but you can distill it, and it's also, polka dots are also, it's a very chic expression. It's a very simple pattern, but it's always very chic. So I think that it's something very inherent that this refers to stars in the sky. And you see it with Kusama Yayoi's artwork, very high-end. This type of fashion, very, very high-end. With movement, for example, you can express movement like Nike does with their logo. Whether that was intentional or not, I have no idea, but it's very, very powerful. And you could also express that in a 3D form as well. So back to like what I'm doing, and about linguistics, the linguistics of design. When I started designing my first product, which was a clock or a wristwatch, again, back to intuitive process. I remembered that in first grade that I had to learn how to tell time. I had homework on mimeographed homework that said, you're out of school at 3 o'clock, it takes 45 minutes to get to grandma's, you stop to eat an apple for 15 minutes, what time do you get to grandma's house? So if you had to have homework, and it takes some kids first grade, second grade, even third grade to learn it, it's not intuitive. Just because it's rote doesn't mean it's intuitive. So when I analyzed why is it not intuitive, I realized, which most people probably, I hope they realize, is that time is base 12 math. Everything else you do with your checkbook and your calculator, and especially the linguistics of math, you count from 1 to 10. And then 11 and 12 is 10 and 1, 10 and 2. So to try to think mathematically in base 12 or higher base math, which physics is really, they need to do, you're constrained by the language and the linguistics of it. Now, if we were born with 12 fingers, we'd be living in a different world. Now, to show about the efficiency of base 12 math and why we have it for time, when you count to 10, if you're doing math and you have to divide things, the only clean fraction you have is half, 5. As soon as you divide 5 in half, you have 2.5, and you get more complicated decimals. If you were to bring math up to base 12 or base 15, your math gets much more elegant, and it's much easier to do. I should have put this in my presentation, but I was told I only have 8 minutes. I came up with a new language for math that was actually scalable, because most Western languages are not. But I'm not going to get into that this presentation. And then also with writing systems, if you think about a writing system, is it really universal? There used to be a time where people, if you only learned Roman numerals, you probably didn't read Arabic numerals, and of course you have to go back 2,000 years for that. I know that's a bit of a stretch. But when you think that this is like the way to express it, when I did my exercise in visual linguistics, I came up with this, to try to come up with an interface that a 3-year-old can look at and figure out. I've tested it with 3- and 4-year-olds, it works. Alien from another planet can come here and they'd probably figure it out. It's very simple, just 1 block per hour, minutes and seconds go like a thermometer. And once people who get it, what it's promoting is passive intelligence. I know it's not like the most sophisticated technological device, but the thinking behind it is about the linguistics. And when I think about other wearables and interface design for wearables, if we don't explore the linguistics of what's being expressed, we're not going to have new efficiencies. And this is the challenge that I give to designers everywhere. And I applied this to all kinds of other products as well. I have a patent for this belt that I'm wearing, and it's really kind of cool looking. But it's also about a mechanical innovation, that you shouldn't limit. When you're thinking about innovation, everyone's limits it to, like, if it's not a touch screen or it's not something that's the latest and the greatest technology, you are ignoring other opportunities to innovate. Innovate on a mechanical level, innovate on a linguistic level, innovate on the way that you're communicating or the touch and feel of a product. So this is actually, I'm most proud of this product than anything else that I'm working on, even though my things coming up are going to be kind of cool too. I did a fragrance as well. I challenged myself, can you do a fragrance that makes people feel optimistic for the future? Like, how would you do that? How do you make people feel that the future is not a geeky thing, it's a sexy thing? And again, I applied certain notes and certain notes of a fragrance, like things that will make you feel a little bit, surprised. Surprise always makes you feel a little bit optimistic. And things that are citrusy notes are also very electrical to get the sense of electricity and technology into a fragrance. So I challenge everyone to bring the ideals of technoprogressivism to every medium. It can be done, and it can be done quite successfully. Can you express the emotion of a technology brand with a toy? These are all the challenges I give myself. I don't know if I'm successful with all of them, but there was that. And then a lot of the stuff is just, look, everyone's going to the future. Until there are time machines, you're not going to the past. So even if you're designing sunglasses, when I design sunglasses, I want them to look like you're going to the future. It's all about, that's where we're all going, and I hope to see you all there. And that is my very short and concise presentation.